Claressa Shields walked into a radio station yesterday thinking she was there to talk boxing. She left having started a whole other battle. During her appearance on Atlanta's Street's 94.5 FM, the Street's Morning Takeover on Thursday to promote her upcoming August 15th fight against Kaye Scott, co-host MZ Shinika asked the point-blank question nobody else was willing to ask on air. How much longer are you willing to be in a relationship with somebody's husband? The way the room probably went quiet. The way Shields probably blinked. But here's the thing. Shields didn't flinch. She didn't dodge. She got loud about it instead. Well, pause. 'Cause that's not somebody's husband. Papoose filed for divorce. Y'all hate to say that word, but it's the word that's out there. He filed for divorce because he's serious about me. That's how she opened. Not defensive, not apologetic, but corrective. The fighter made sure to establish her terms before anything else got said. The tension shifted immediately. This wasn't going to be a soft interview moment. This was combat, just with words instead of gloves. Shields kept going. She didn't take the bait to be the villain in someone else's story. So, I'm not with somebody's husband, and if you're going to call him her husband, make sure you call her his wife and also hold her accountable for what she's doing in her life. She flipped the script completely. The interviewer asked about her role in a marriage dissolution. She asked why the public wasn't applying the same moral scrutiny to everyone involved. That's the part that broke the internet in half. Social media immediately split into factions. One side felt like Shields was being unnecessarily combative during what should have been a simple press tour. The other side watched that clip 17 times because they felt like she was finally saying what needed to be said. The third side, and yes, there's always a third side, thought the whole thing smelled like performative defense and found the whole situation messy regardless. But let's back up and understand why this question even exists. Papoose and rapper Remy Ma publicly confirmed their separation, but their legal divorce hasn't been finalized, meaning he remains legally married. That's the technicality everyone's running with. Legally married but publicly done. Separated but not divorced. The relationship between Shields and Papoose became public knowledge during the dissolution of his marriage to Remy Ma. Remy didn't find out passively either. She found out aggressively, and she responded the same way. Back in December 2024, Remy went live on Instagram and accused Papoose of infidelity. Papoose fired back saying none of it was true. Claressa stayed quiet. Then she didn't. Then she did again. The whole thing became a three-person argument where two of them weren't necessarily talking to each other. They were talking around each other while social media kept receipts. Now, nearly 8 months into this public situation, Shields is in Atlanta doing radio to promote a boxing match. A significant boxing match. By the way, she's fighting Kaye Scott for unified championships. This should be her moment. Instead, she's answering questions about relationship timelines and legal definitions. Shields addressed the divorce timeline directly, saying that divorce takes time, although Papoose is still going through the process. She tried to add nuance to a situation the internet treats in inaries, but nuance doesn't trend. The radio host's follow-up question made things even more pointed. That's when you could feel the frustration in her voice shift to something sharper. Here's what makes this worse for Shields. She's right about the double standard. She pointed out that Remy Ma is also living her life with someone else, saying, "So don't make it seem like it's just one-sided." That's factually accurate. Remy hasn't been sitting home waiting for divorce papers. She's been public about her own involvement. But one person's hypocrisy doesn't erase another person's complication. The internet knows this, but chooses to ignore it when drama is involved. Shields' comments about the imbalance and how the situation gets discussed have a point that fans can't really argue against without sounding unfair. She said, "I'm with the man who filed for divorce, who's serious about me, who's done things for me that I've done for him." That's a personal statement. That's her saying this isn't random or accidental or some side situation. It's deliberate and mutual. She wanted that on the record. But saying things on the record during a radio interview also means they get dissected, clipped, remixed, and weaponized across platforms for the next 72 hours. Shields knows this. She does it anyway. That's either bravery or a lack of self-preservation instinct, depending on who you ask. The fight itself should be the headline here. August 15th, State Farm Arena. Kaye Scott. These are legitimate boxing details that deserve attention, but instead, every article about Shields now has to include context about her personal life. That's not an accident. That's a strategy from a media ecosystem that cares more about relationship drama than athletic achievement. What's particularly interesting is that Shields didn't contradict herself. She's been consistent on this point since it all began. She's never tried to reframe Papoose as a single man when he wasn't. She's never claimed Remy deserved betrayal. She's consistently said that he filed for divorce and she's with that man now. That's her story, and she hasn't changed it, despite multiple opportunities to soften it or apologize for existing. Some people see that as strength. Some see it as arrogance. Some think she should just not talk about it at all. That last group is probably right, strategically speaking. But Shields has proven she's not interested in strategic silence when she feels something's being misrepresented. The problem is that every time she addresses it, the situation gets fresher, more complicated, and harder to move past. By explaining herself on a radio show during a boxing press tour, she's making sure this story stays ahead of the actual sports news that should define her week. Twitter had immediate takes. Naturally, some defended Shields' right to a relationship with someone going through a divorce. Some said it doesn't matter what the legal status is if they're not together. Some said Shields should have stayed silent and let her boxing do the talking. Some said Shields was being dismissive of Remy Ma's hurt. The discourse fractured in 17 directions, and none of them led anywhere productive. What actually happened is that a radio host asked a provocative question. Shields answered it directly instead of deflecting, and that answer contained frustration. That's the whole story. It's not a revelation. It's not a confession. It's a correction delivered with heat. The real issue is that Shields is a boxer first. That's what she built her reputation on. She's a two-time Olympic gold medalist. She's an undisputed champion. She's dominated multiple weight classes and faced down opponents who were physically larger. Her legacy is supposed to be about what she does in the ring, not about her choice in partners. But publicly being with Papoose during his very public divorce from Remy Ma, successful rapper with her own platform and her own voice, means Shields automatically gets positioned in a narrative that isn't about her athletic achievements. It's about relationship dynamics and who did what, when, and whether timing matters. That's not a boxing story. During an earlier appearance on The Breakfast Club, when Papoose was asked about his divorce, Claressa interrupted multiple times with her own answers, and the hosts noted her body language and interjections, with social media users commenting on what she said and how she said it. So this is a pattern. She's not staying quiet. She's not letting him navigate it alone. She's actively inserting herself into the narrative, which either shows devotion or shows someone who doesn't trust their partner to represent the situation accurately. Looking at the immediate aftermath of the Streets 94.5 interview, fans are divided. Some are saying the interviewer was out of line asking such a personal question during a boxing promotion, was defensive, and the way she answered proved she knows it's complicated. Still others are saying Shields was handling a gotcha question the only way you can, by refusing to accept the premises behind it. What's clear is that this interview is going to follow Shields into her fight week. Reporters are going to ask about it. Her social media mentions are going to reference it. Every piece of coverage about her August 15th bout is going to include some version of this conflict. That's not a coincidence. That's how the industry works when an athlete has high personal drama running simultaneously with professional commitments. Question nobody's asking is whether Shields actually wanted to be in that position. Did she wake up and think, I want my press tour to be about my relationship status? Probably not. But when a radio host directly asks about it, what's the alternative? Refuse to answer? Claim it's private? Give a diplomatic non-response? At least Shields' direct approach is honest, even if it's messy. There's also something worth noting about the gender dynamics at play here. Shields has previously called out anti-blackness in critics of her appearance, saying critics hate everything about blackness when they use images meant to mock her. She's shown she's willing to address how black women are treated differently in media narratives. This situation with the radio interview fits into that broader pattern. A man going through a divorce is a man going through a divorce. A woman in a relationship with that man gets labeled a homewrecker, despite no evidence of affair-level involvement. Shields didn't explicitly make that argument during the Streets 94.5 interview, but it's implicit in everything she said. She's pointing out that the standards applied to her are different from the standards applied to everyone else in this situation. Will this cost her? Possibly. Some boxing fans think athletes should stay out of drama entirely and just fight. Some sponsors probably had their legal teams call her camp after this clip started circulating. Some mainstream media outlets that might have wanted to cover her fight are now going to lead with the controversy instead. But will it cost her in the long run? That depends on whether she wins on August 15th.